Oh, here it is again. Just when you thought it was safe to go outside and browse on the internet, I have another instance or another episode of the ongoing Leon and Joe story. If you remember the last episode, Joe and I were in Warsaw, and he got accosted by a hooker in the Hilton Casino. We'd gone there had a supper, and of course they had a real nice casino, and I was primed, and we're playing blackjack. And what had happened is he got accosted by this woman who was a prostitute, and she was really somebody who was in the wrong business. She had gone and accosted Joe at the bar, and he, unknowing to me, he says that he tells her in Polish, "Ja nie chcę, I don't want it." But then whoop, he pointed over to me. So she went over there. Make a short story long, the dealer at the blackjack table pushed her away, and I realized then that, she had been getting ready to proposition me. And of course, I go over and I look at Joe, and he's grinning like a jackass eating briars. Okay, so that's the story. And we had kind of an ongoing battle, and that's not the right word, but we had an ongoing gotcha program. And he got me on that big time. Okay, so in the last episode, I think I told you that it was going to take me a while, but it took 2 years, but I caught up. Okay, so this is a continuation of that story. First of all, you have to realize that Joe was a dinosaur, literally. You can just ask Jim. Every time there was a power outage, which happened on a regular basis during the summer with storms, he'd get a call from my brother to come on over and reset the time on all his electronic devices. And I think in all the years that I knew Joe, he had never programmed his VCR to literally, record a program. Being a dinosaur, I've got to tell us another background story is Joe signed up in the program at Chrysler where they put engineers into the purchasing area, and it made a whole lot of sense to have purchasers know exactly what it is that they were buying, have knowledgeable people. So Joe found a niche, and there a while, show up one morning and I get a direction to go into a conference room. So he goes in the conference room, and he's sitting there with a bunch of guys from the group, and there's booklets at the table. So they're kind of browsing through it. In walks this young lady, and she introduces herself as the lead in transforming or setting up the group to change the way purchasing was controlled. That is going to now be done with software. And Joe's puckering up. You can just see his sphincter going tight. And she says, no, don't. You shouldn't be worried because there's no problem here. What we're going to be doing is going to save you a lot of time. It's going to be accurate. You're going to be able to trace where parts are in the purchase cycle, and it's just going to make life much simpler for you. And again, I can just picture Joe's sphincter puckering up. And she says, and I know you're kind of concerned, but you have to realize that this thing is so simple. I mean, it's no more difficult than programming your VCR. Joe slams the sheet, the folder closed, and walks out of the conference room. Okay, that being said, we are in London, and this hotel room and this hotel that we were in is another story in itself. But the next day, it was important that we got up on time. We had to catch a cab, and get to Victoria Station. And there we would then be able to get on the underground, the metro, to the train station for the Channel, the under the English Channel train. We were scheduled to go to Paris. And it was, you know, kind of important that we get the timing correct, you know, not being from there and not being too sure about what kind of time it was going to take. We were kind of puckered up. So he made a call down to the desk, and pardon the expression, there were ragheads, there were no malintent. There were Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis. There was a big community of those kind of people there. And, you know, so we told them that it was very important that we get up at a certain time. Well, neither Joe or I felt very comfortable with the possibility of that happening. So Joe pulls out this little Radio Shack alarm, and it was probably this square, literally, and as thin as probably 6 or 7 playing cards. And Joe goes and he sets up the alarm on that. And I said, "You sure that's going to work?" He says, "Oh yeah, okay." Typically what happened is in the evening, we'd have supper, whatever we're going to do, and Joe would kind of get to the point where he'd pull out the sauce, pull out the vermouth, pull out the gin, and make himself a martini, and at the same time, not at the same time, he would then pull out his journal, and Joe wrote a journal after every day, kind of going over what had happened during the day for us. And about that time, I didn't care to be around Joe when he was drinking, only because in those years I was pretty much dry as a popcorn fart. I wasn't a two-teetotaler, but pretty close. I just didn't care to be around him. So I fortunately able to just close my eyes, lay down, and go to sleep. So here it is. I don't know, it might have been 1 o'clock in the evening. Of course, we got to be up at 7 o'clock that morning, something like that. And I get awakened by beep, 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 and I'm, shaking the sleep out of my eyes. And Joe's on his bed, which was just adjacent to the bed that I was crashed in. And he's sitting on the edge of the bed, and he's punching buttons on this little square device. And beep, 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 beep. And I said, "Well, Joe, can you shut the alarm off?" Of course, I got him in a very weak position, and I am not letting go. And he said, "God damn it," and he starts punching. At first it was one button, then she's punching 2 buttons at a time. And I said, "Joe, are you sure it's the alarm clock?" And he looks at me, and there's smoke coming out of his ears, and he says, "What do you think it is, the freaking radio?" I said, "Joe, I don't know, but what you're doing doesn't seem to be very effective." And he gets pissed, and he slings this little Radio Shack device across the wall, hits the wall, the back pops off, and the battery rolls out. Beep, beep, beep. And what it was the radio. Of course, he's dipping into the sauce, and he thought that he had turned the radio off when he finally crashed to go to sleep. Well, he turned it off only by turning on the alarm. And of course, that's just what it was. It was the alarm. Beep, beep, beep. And when we realized that, it's uproariously funny. And I'm having fun only because I caught him at a weak moment. And the problem, at the end of the story is, did we make it on time? Well, it's kind of an anti-climax because, and sure enough, it was. But we didn't get a second of sleep the rest of the night. Every time that it would be one or the other of us would go and start snickering. You know, I'd be laying there and it would occur to me just how funny that was. And I'd go like that, and he roared. And we just went back and forth with that all night. Like I said, we never got another moment's sleep the rest of the night. And we did make it on time. But it was just one of those things. I was able to catch Joe and bend him over the axle and get back at him. And it wasn't often that I could catch him or that we could catch each other. And it was just one of those instances in life that it was just so sweet. Again, okay, this is Uncle Leon, and hopefully you find that story as amusing as I did. I said this any number of times now. Anytime I think of these episodes, I just look up to heaven and say, Joe, thank you for just providing these kind of instances in my life. All right. Thank you. Awaiting the next episode with bated breath. Thank you very much. Good night / goodbye.